On today's starting nine, Carl and Jake get into some of the biggest stories around Major League Baseball throughout the week, including Hunter Green's no-hitter that resulted in a loss, a historic chase for an MLB record in cycles, the first major firing of the season, and a whole bunch of other news, including some very personal questions for Jake Arrieta, and of course, our weekly awards. Let's get into the show. Action! And welcome back to Starting Nine. It's Carl. I've got Jake joining us from Austin. Today is May
16th.
Today is May 16th, Tuesday, May 16th. Jay, welcome to the show. How you doing?
So good to see you.
Technically, it's the 17th.
Well, we're recording
okay.
on the 16th. We're releasing on the 17th. We're still getting used to it. Jake, what's going on, man? How's Texas?
It was good. We were in Arlington for the weekend, had a flag football tournament with Cooper, went 3-0 on Saturday, scored 99 points, gave up 6, feeling real good about ourselves. We played at 7:30, 8:30, and 9:30 Saturday morning. The kids spent all day at the pool, everybody with blisters on the bottom of their toes. If you can remember as a kid, just, those little circles that kind of felt like shit for a week or two. So they had to come out Sunday morning, played a sick gangster team, 13-6. We lost. It was a big moment for the kids. I feel like they were kind of deer in headlights. They were ready, but they were a little nervous. They got pushed around. The team played physical. We lost in the semis, but it was a great weekend, man. Got to go to 2 Sox Rangers games, sat in the bleachers in right field. Had a blast, man. Had a blast.
Are you a flag football dad? Are you a competitive guy? You wear coaching shorts on the sidelines, yelling at the receivers, get separation and stuff? Or are you pretty level-headed when it comes to kids competitions?
I yelled at our head coach more than the players. Honestly,
okay, what's the problem?
We were starting to run out of time. No, he's a great coach. Good plays, everything. One of my good buddies, Ricky Loudon, is the assistant coach. I'm just kind of there. I'm like the stretch coordinator, the hype guy, getting the kids fired up, making sure the hip flexors are nice and loose, ready to be explosive. You know what I mean? So I'm on the sideline in my Tilly hat. If you don't know what a Tilly hat is, look it up. If you fish, you should know what a Tilly hat is. So I'm there. We got like 2 minutes left, running out of time, and I'm yelling. I'm like, Matt, you got to get the plays in. Let's go. Run out of time. So no, I'm a flag football dad, but mainly there just for support. I know football a little bit. I played, but I'm just, I'm not a football like rat. But anything my kids are part of, I'm there.
Yeah. And then any like injury concerns, we talk Coop obviously is gonna be a great baseball player, I would hope, but at some point I would hope you got to take the pigskin away, right? Or does he have the makings to be one of these legendary Texas QBs we're going to be talking about for ages?
We'll see. I mean, he plays quarterback. He loves it. He wants to play tight end, but he's got slow feet. I'm like, dude, you're the team's best quarterback. He's not slow, but I'm like, you're the team's best quarterback. I'm like, who's going to throw you the ball? We have a couple other good quarterbacks, but that's his skill set. I'm like, you're not fast enough. I'm like, why do you think you don't play defense? All right, you sit in the pocket and you have the arm. So let's play quarterback. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, if he ends up liking football more, by all means play football, but now he's playing both. He's playing basketball too. And I did the same thing. I played all 3. I stopped playing soccer when I couldn't dribble the ball anymore. But yeah, I want him to do whatever he wants. I stopped playing football when I took a blindside hit at quarterback, dropped on my right shoulder. I'm like, okay, I'm putting it down.
Yeah. Hey, smart move. I'm sure that what do they say? Like the cost benefit analysis of you giving up the high school football. Yeah. Speaking of athletics, you'll be proud of me. I golfed with some buddies this weekend, and I made the adjustment on the second tee box. And what do you think the adjustment was after you played with me? It was a commitment, mental commitment here.
If it's anything like what you told me on the driving range, it's to get your the right armpit through.
You got to whip it through. You got to whip it through. Well, my rotation was so weak when we played, and I could feel I was blocking. I wasn't creating space for the hands to get through. So I'm on the second tee box talking to the boys, and I was like, Jake's going to be so mad at me if I put up another 9 holes, and I'm not really feeling the rotation. I don't really let it. You got to create space. Don't be afraid to coil yourself on a golf course and just let it fucking.
I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what space you're talking about. I just,
like if I turn my body, never mind.
It doesn't matter. We just need to get used to being amateur golfers. Just enjoy ourselves on the course, right? If I can shoot, if I shoot an 80, I'm thrilled. Yeah. If I shoot a 90, I don't care either. I'm fine.
All right, so we'll just work on being better amateur golfers. On the subject of amateur and professional, I think it's interesting that you went to your first professional baseball game as an amateur in quite some time this weekend.
It was. Yeah. So the kids wanted to go to the games Friday. I was there Friday night. John Lackey surprised his son Carter, took him and like 7 of his buddies to the game. We happened to be in town for the football tournament, so we showed up to the game, had a blast. We stayed for probably 6 innings because Cooper had to be up. We had to be up at 5:30 for a 7:30 game. Then they all wanted to go Saturday night. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, we'll get BP passes. We'll go get seats in right field. We'll have a good time, right? We'll stand in line for 30 minutes to get a hot dog, whatever you guys want to do. So I tell Cooper, I'm like, hey, I got BP passes. We'll go at like 3:30, whatever. He goes, well, what time are we going to hit? I'm like, dude, you're not hitting in the field anymore. Like, that's not how this works. Maybe if I can set it up, we have to go like 1 o'clock, but no, like I'm not playing. I'm retired. We're sitting in right field. Okay. We're going to stand in line and just kind of be a fan. All right. So got him on the field, talked with Dahlbeck, talked with Trevor Story for a while. Talked with Alex Cora for a bit. Brad Miller is a good friend of mine. He came out, we said, what's up? So that was interesting. Standing by the cage and watching the guys hit, as a retired player for the first time in boots and jeans was different, but it was a blast. We had a great time. And when the game started, we're in right field near the foul pole. A beautiful stadium, by the way. Globe Life is just amazing. So I'm like, all right, what do y'all want? One kid wanted wings. One wants a hot dog and ice cream. Like, you gotta be shitting me. So I got standing in 3 lines. So I go get Plucker's wings. Then I go over to where the hot dogs are, and they've got a 3-foot hot dog. Awesome looking hot dog, right? So there's probably 70 people in line. So I go to where there's about 10, 12 people in line. I just look at the guy, go, hey, I'll pay for your food if you just let me hop in line with you. And he looks at me, he goes, like, what the hell? What are you doing here? Like, he recognized me. I'm like, man, I'm just a fan now. I got my kids in the stands. Like, I'm just here as a fan. So he's like, yeah, hop in line, whatever. So we talk for a while, and I get to the front of the line. He's like, man, you don't have to pay for my food. I'm like, no, I told you I'd pay for your food. Get whatever you want. So he gets like 3 hot dogs, 3 drinks, $85 later, right? But it was worth it, because the last thing you want to do is stand in line for 30 minutes, miss the entire first inning.
Fuck yeah, dude! It's such a veteran, smart move from you too. Like, that's something guys have been, I think, working their way around, especially in the outfield concourse of baseball games. And so for you right away, game one, to be jumping into that, make that decision was smart. You end up getting that 3-foot hot dog. Just as a hot dog guy myself, I'm just interested, just quick, like, that was good hot dog, bad decision. Did you get it?
No, I was good. I had a couple bites of it, but Cooper and all his teammates, they smashed the whole thing. Chili, cheese. They didn't want onions and jalapenos, which I get. As a kid, you might not be into that kind of thing. As you get older, maybe. I'm a jalapeno guy. I like the spicier the better. But it looked phenomenal. I had one little bite. It was good, but I smashed wings, 5 or 6 triple tequilas, and enjoy the game, man. Enjoy the game. Yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah. You and I, our bleacher tours coming later in the season. So I'm glad that you went and got some reps, and we're going to come back. I want to talk about the Rangers and the Red Sox, at least just for a little bit, but let's get into some top 9. Let's get in. We got some 9 big headlines. I'm interested for some like quick reaction from you. This is the shit everybody's talking around town. And obviously there's no better place to start. Hunter Green goes into the 8th inning with a no-hitter. You and I have talked before about pitch count limitations. It was good. They let him pitch 118 pitches. I thought that's a good stretch. That's the most pitches any starter's thrown this year. They end up taking him out. The Reds lose the game. You got to, in your experience throwing no hitters, this is like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like, are you in the fucking clubhouse afterwards just like, how the fuck do we just lose this game, or what's your demeanor like?
It's tough to swallow. I mean, I don't think it's happened since 2008 or 2009 is what I saw. It's just one of the more unexpected things in the game of baseball. Hunter Green, I think he's 1-6. He's got an ERA in the mid 6s. So, for him to come out like that and be on top of his game, so to speak. I mean, he had 5 walks. I mean, Edwin Jackson, good friend of mine, I think he threw 150 pitches in his no-hitter. He had like 7 or 8 walks, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not a guarantee that you're going to have pinpoint command. You just need certain things to go your way. have decent sequencing. But when the pitch count gets to that sort of number, it messes with your chances of finishing it off, right? And your stamina, your ability to make big pitches in big situations to get those last 6 outs. It's tough. So to see Hunter do what he did, very impressive. He's going to be a Verlander-esque type of guy, I believe, with that stuff, with the size. He's got the demeanor. And just looking at some of the comments that, David Bell said about him, like, he doesn't get down on himself regardless of where he's at record-wise and performance. So that's good to hear from Bell. I don't know. It's a tough go for both Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
To have a guy go out there and do what Hunter Green did and still get a loss, I'm going to need the offense to step it up just a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough because on one hand, obviously you want to get the runs, you want to get the win, all that stuff. But where just the Reds are at right now, especially with Hunter Green in his career, like the fact that he has such a big positive start, he's got such a heavy fastball, good guy to keep your eye on in the betting corner of the world next couple starts as he gets his momentum going. Let's stay no hitter. The second big thing I think is interesting, Christian Yelich had his third cycle of his career. It came against the Reds. All 3 cycles have come against the Reds. He would be the only person in Major League Baseball if he gets a 4th cycle. And they said there's 335 cycles to date. There's 315 no hitters to date. You already have a couple no hitters under your belt. Hitting a cycle. Did you ever give up a cycle? The cycle is a big fucking. I feel like the cycle just comes out of nowhere, man. It's like
it does come out of nowhere, and we've had these conversations before. I believe that Chris Bryant had a game in Cincinnati, 2015 or 2016. It was 4 for 4 or 5 for 5, and he had like 3 homers and 2 doubles or something crazy, or 2 homers, 2 doubles. So like, that's probably more impressive. It's just hard. It seems harder, especially Yelich in the last cycle he just had. He finished it off with the triple. Very difficult to do. And you see him coming around first base, he hit the ball down the right field line. Like, you knew that he's going for it. Like, he came out of the box hot with nobody stopping him from getting to third base.
Yep.
So it's hard to say what's more impressive. I think the cycle is extremely unique.
Yeah.
It's very interesting too that there's, only 20 more cycles than no hitters in baseball history. So just about as rare. If I'm a hitter, I'd rather have the multiple home runs or the multiple doubles or triples, right? And say, fuck the single.
Yeah, you're getting paid on total bases, Do
you stop? I mean, in a big situation in the game, if it's a blowout, I get it. You stop at first to get the cycle, but otherwise, like, you can't stay on first base if it's a stand-up double, right?
No, you can't. No, you can't. I'll just quick. I saw a college teammate did do that, and then we were ragging him. We're like, "Why the fuck? What's your problem?" And he was like, I'm not getting thrown out at third base in a fucking 2-run game. He was like, "I don't give a fuck about the cycle." Then hit for the cycle like a week later. It was one of the craziest things. Literally one of the craziest things when he hit for the cycle too. He came in the dugout. He's yelling at us. He's like, "I fucking told you, cocksuckers! I fucking told you guys. Wasn't a big deal. Like, don't fucking." He's just a funny guy. Funny guy.
Well, hey, and Yelich, he's got a lot of years ahead of him, so I think he does it. I think
I hope so. I mean,
it's not like he's just got 1 or 2; he's got 3 of them.
Crazy.
I would take a future on that, no problem.
You what?
I would take a future on. No, I'm saying a future on Yelich having another cycle. Absolutely.
We got to get that in the sports book.
Yeah,
he'll
absolutely.
do it. He'll do
All right, we'll talk to
That's
the
easy
odds
money.
Can we stay on offense? And Colin, thanks for speaking up, because I want you to listen to this part real fucking closely. Third big thing, obviously, Yankees, the 25 wins. You and I talked about it. They're just a wagon. I loved what you said pre-show. Jay, could you just repeat it? Like, the goal for a team like that at the start of the year, they're like, yo, we can get to 100. We can get to triple digits. We can win 100 games.
It is. And then being a quarter of the way there pretty early into the season is impressive. And I think, I put it down here. They haven't lost 2 games in a row since April 10th and 11th. That's impressive, right? Yeah. To be able to do that, to not fall into some sort of losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
Losing one, fine. You're going to lose games, right? Most teams, you're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60. What do you do with those other 40 games.
Right.
That's what the really good teams do.
Now, is there anything about, like, they always say in football, like Alabama gets everybody's fucking best game. And they say, like whatever, the Patriots, they get everybody's best game when they're rolling hard and heavy. Like, is there something when the Yankees are this good and they show up to the field? Like, is there a thing as a player where you're like, oh, we're playing the Yankees, like we better pick it up, they're hot right now? Or do
That's
you
a
just
fact.
like, okay, that's a
well,
fucking
and it's
thing.
not just because they're hot right now. Ever since I was a rookie, the Yankees, and there's other teams, the Dodgers, I mean, even the Cardinals, the Cubs have become that. When you go into Yankee Stadium, the first lineup I faced was Derek Jeter, Posada, Cano, A-Rod, Teixeira. Like those guys, those are, some unbelievably talented guys. Like I gotta face these guys. All right. And the history there. So regardless of if the Yankees are in first place or second or third place, there's something different when you kind of toe the rubber against a team like that. And you want to give your best effort. You want to perform at your best ability. Not that you're trying anything else against the Pirates or whoever it is. There's just a little extra there, a little extra fight maybe to beat a team like that. So it's real for sure.
I do also want to say that the Yankees, I'm looking at it right now, are the bottom three. It's the Yankees, Dodgers, Brewers, and easiest schedule in the MLB. So I'm just throwing that out.
But doesn't that help MLB if they have?
You got to play. Hey, you got to play.
No, I know you got to
schedule, man.
I know you got to play who's on your schedule, but I just want to say the Yankees' run is impressive. But when you look at the opponents they've been playing.
All right, we're gonna get to Colin. Colin can sense it coming. He's like, don't.
He wants us to talk. He wants us to suck off the Mets, and which we will. Give it time. Give it time, okay? And I'm a Mets fan. Don't pin me. Don't pin me as a hater. Okay.
Yes.
I threw that ranking together really quick. I just totally forgot the Mets even had a team.
Okay. Yankees offense hot. Everybody's happy. Royals offense bad. Hitting coach fired. Fucking halfway through May. If you're in that clubhouse, you got to be disgusted.
Somebody's got to take the fall. It happens all the time, multiple times a year, whether it's a pitching coach, the assistant hitting coach, the hitting coach, the clubby, whoever the hell it is, somebody gets the axe. And I'm sure that there's a lot of guys in that Kansas City locker room that enjoy the relationship with the hitting coach. Some guys maybe not, but at the end of the day, the owner's not going anywhere, and they like the manager. I think they've got a great manager. And again, the hitting coach isn't the guy standing in the box, hitting. So to me, it's just kind of off base a little bit. I don't know if they're just trying to send a message to their lineup, whatever the case is. He got fired, and hopefully they can rebound a little bit with whoever they bring in there to fill that spot.
I see it as either Bobby Witt Jr., they could look at him and say, we don't like the relationship or the progression, or maybe Whit Merrifield and Sal Perez are like, we don't really, or they aren't really clicking and vibing. And it's kind of like, well, if it's not registering with these two guys, then what's the point? And it's a difficult situation because the Royals window is going to open quicker than people realize. And so there is some, I guess, fucking salt to fire. To me, though, it's just like, guys, we're 6 weeks into the season, 7 weeks into the season. Like, there are hitters, and let's just get into another one right now. I mean, no, I'm going to save that one.
Well, let me say this one thing. At the big league level, there's rarely a time where a guy is completely changing his swing or changing his delivery, whatever it is. There's little tweaks like with technique and with certain drills, how to develop better timing or a hitting routine like throughout a day that hitting coaches or pitching coaches can help with, and bullpen stuff like that. But we're not reinventing the wheel with most of these guys. They have had a ton of success coming through the minor leagues, and then they get to the big leagues, and you're just trying to make what they do a little bit better, right? So I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on in that specific situation, but just from what I've seen in the past, hitting guys, pitching coaches are there just kind of for advice to an extra set of eyes to maybe pick something out that you can't feel or see yourself. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. I don't know. Like I said, the relationships within the organization with the hitting coach and the players in Kansas City. But I think sometimes hitting coaches, pitching coaches take too much of the fall for struggling performances amongst the roster.
Yeah. It's a funny job. Hitting coach, pitching coach, I get a lot of the ones you get. Hitting coach is like, well, what are you guys working on? Like the guy swing that's the loosest one. Offensive line coaches you get, the fucking, even the NBA assistant coaches, the guys that are drawing up the defensive schemes and stuff. But the hitting coach, it's like, dude, if you're the hitting coach and you've got fucking guys on your roster that are like actually great hitters that are very hitterish and they want to hit. But to another extent, I guess we're just getting into this a little bit. My buddy Jeremy Reed, hitting coach out in Los Angeles, I know he's got a pretty fluid, relaxed situation where it's like, I'm going to work on the video to the extent you guys want to work with me. My door is always open. So then a good example, we forgot to talk about this last week. I mean, Anthony Rendon just hitting a bomb lefty. Like, his hitting coach is like, yeah, sure, whatever. We're up fucking 13. Go up there, have some fun with it. To drop a bomb lefty, I meant to bring this up last week, and I just thought that was one of the coolest things I've seen out of a baseball field in forever.
And he was 0 for 4. He's 0 for 4 going into that at bat. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. I'm gonna go up there left-handed. If I get out, I get out. But I'm going for it. And hey, one other thing, Brett Phillips. I know he can throw hard, right? Why does he lob it in there at 55?
I think those guys.
I think he's probably got 92, 93 in the tank.
It's probably easier to get those guys out with 55 though than it is with 86, dude. Or like,
when the guy in the bot, when they all know that that's what you're throwing, I think that it ends up being easier to hit than you think. Sit on the back leg and let it eat. I'd like to see Phillips. He's going to throw again at some point this season.
All right, challenges out to Brett Phillips. Next time you take the mound,
let's see some gas.
Even
over under 90, 92. Over under 92.
All right, and if he gets over 92,
91 and a half.
91 and a half, we'll throw him a party. We'll give him some kind of award.
And he'll do it.
Make you fucking custom video if he hit.
It is hard to throw strikes. So I get that. But I need more velocity than 55.
Brett Phillips doesn't want to get hurt. That's what I would guess. Speaking of getting hurt, Bryce Harper doesn't have an ACL, and Bryce Harper is eligible for some weekly awards coming. UCL. What did I say? ACL?
Yeah, I think he has that.
Okay. UCL, where's that? Here?
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but there's these two elbow like bones. One's kind of pointy, and then you have your olecranon, which is like the tip of your elbow.
My olecranon.
And I might fuck this up, but I think it's in between. It rests in between there. And sometimes guys have issues with it kind of rolling over and getting a little nervy, like in their fingers, which I don't think is a big deal, but it can catch on some stuff and create some fraying. So yeah, he made a pretty serious throw from right field and has a partial tear. Hopefully he can rehab that. I saw that he got PRP, and for me, I had PRP on my shoulder in 2014. It didn't do shit.
What's PRP?
Maybe it's
what's PRP?
Platelet-rich plasma. They take your blood, they spin it, it separates, and they put the plasma back in there. Just made me feel like I had a rock in my shoulder for 2 weeks, and then slowly I could start to play catch again.
That doesn't sound natural.
No, you weren't supposed to. I wasn't supposed to lift my shoulder or my arm above shoulder height. I think it just helped because I didn't use my arm at all. But whether the plasma helped or not, I don't know. Hopefully it works for him, but he's still raking.
He is still raking.
Yeah, fortunately they have, we got the DH now, so he's in the lineup.
Speaking of super hot, the Astros 11-game win streak comes to an end, but they're so fucking hot, and people I think might be because of the cheating. We were like, well, fuck these guys. It might also be just because Springer left and Correa left. But at the end of the day, the Astros just keep fucking doing it. They were impressive last year in the playoffs. They're impressive this year. They've got good, young, hard pitching. They've got a lineup that doesn't fucking strike out. They've got balance. It just talked about the Astros where it's like, I know it's going to be August and we're going to be talking about them, winning 93 to 95 games again.
Well, the division still has to go through those guys. They've, they have the experience. They've been there. There's no panic. They had some young arms that pitched very well for them in the postseason. They understand how to handle, struggles throughout the regular season. And that's what they're showing. I think it was 12 games
Okay.
I think it was 12, well, 11, 12 games. And
Might
then
have been 12 at the
they
time I wrote
lost,
this.
they lost, you know, and then they came out and won the next one. That's super important. And it's easy to say, but you have a streak like that, then you lose a game and you come back out the next one, you win, right? You start another streak. How many streaks can you start? And how quickly can you overcome those periods where things aren't going well?
Do you want to be the starting pitcher
pitching
for the next
sucks.
game? Like if you're on a streak and
next
you're taking the
game,
ball,
Yeah, for sure. It's that
right?
internal, that's that competition amongst the boys, the starting rotation. Yeah, of course. If I were to see Hendricks go out there and throw a CG or Lester throw 8 shutout innings, it's my turn to go out there and carry the torch. Whether it's a shutout or 7-1 or 8-2, just trying to give that sort of effort and continue and keeping the ball rolling. Hitting's hard as shit. So we're realistic too. We know we're not gonna throw shutouts every time, but hitting is no easy task.
Right.
And if we had a starting rotation with 5 horses in it, and we were healthy, and we just continue to roll, and that's what the good teams are gonna do. And lineups are gonna also pick up starting rotations when they shit the bed, which is gonna happen sometimes as well. Your starter goes out there and gives up 4 in the first. How can we find a way to stay in this game, pick them up, and get them off the hook?
Yeah. No, Astros are a deep fucking team, man. Like, you know, we talked a little bit about it. We're gonna get to some trade speculation later, but like, you know, that's a division they can run away with. Obviously, the Angels are creeping up. There's some competition there, but it's not the NL East. There's tons of competition
What
in the
about
NL East. And
what about Seattle? Are we still thinking they might be for real, or are they starting to slide the other direction?
Seattle's fine. I think Seattle just probably had too many offseason expectations and a lot of guys coming in and feeling some pressure and stuff. But like, they got great players. I mean, thank God Ty France finally found a spot on the field. That guy deserves 650 plate appearances a year. They sent Jared Kelenic down to AAA, but like, you know, if he gets going and J-Rod gets going, like they have enough there. Obviously, Robbie Ray, the big starting pitching acquisition. You look like you got something to say about Seattle.
I just want to know, wasn't that timely for Jared Kelenic to get set down the weekend that they come to play the Mets in New York City against a hostile crowd? I thought that's very, very interesting.
Because that could ruin his fucking season, dickhead.
Yeah, well, I mean,
so you're saying he couldn't handle playing in front of the Mets fans. That's what you're trying to say.
I'm not saying that he can't. I'm saying that his ownership and leadership doesn't believe in him enough to come into New York and play.
I think you're digging a little too much.
No, because that's true. It's a hostile environment, just like Carl said.
It's not that hostile.
But because of
just not that hostile.
Because of the trade.
I'm telling you. What now?
We'd be chirping him like crazy.
Yeah.
I was chirping.
You didn't go to the games this weekend.
I was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That's what we're going to get.
I thought you said you didn't go.
We're not going tonight. We're going to go tonight, but the rain looks bad. But okay, let's get to, I was going to say this, like, I would say this. I think Seattle can get hot. I think Seattle's one of those teams that needs, like, they're going to have to do their own, 13 out of 20 stretch and stuff. And they're going to have to do another where it's like fucking 7 out of 10. And they're going to have a couple of these clusters and stuff. And they can get it on the schedule. They can definitely get it on the schedule. It doesn't help when you got to play 4 against the fucking Rays and you're playing the Angels. So we'll see once they get the cupcakes rolling into town and stuff, they get deeper in the season. I feel like Seattle is one of those teams that's historically tougher to play July and August. Once you get some fucking mileage under your belt, that trip up to Seattle gets fucking tough, I feel like. But I want to go back to the Mets because you pissing people off last week. You didn't put the Mets in your power rankings. Everyone's fucking going nuts being like, the Mets haven't lost a series all week. They come out, they lose a fucking series.
You got to give them credit. Look, the Mets are a great team. There's no doubt about that. How do you get to the postseason? How do you have a deep run in the postseason? You learn how to win series. Got to give the Mets credit, Colin. Relax, man. I like your team. I really do. And they almost won the series by coming back Sunday and almost walked them off.
I almost made this comeback. That was disgusting.
Almost walked them off.
Can't blame the at bat on Alonso, but looking at the pitch chart, six straight balls pretty much. Can't lose a game on a check swing.
Yeah, he's just trying to make something happen.
But you also
a tough spot.
Can't blame
tough spot. Home crowd. Yeah, I mean,
You
it
can't
was
give
tough.
up 8 runs on 16 hits either, so it's not.
You
On
shouldn't
just
do
Pete
that.
Alonso,
But
so
even though that happened, I mean, they were still right there.
they
So
battled. Yep.
yeah, only one series loss. That's pretty huge. That can't go unnoticed, especially when that's what this game's about, is trying to stack up as many series as you can. And I mean, Buck, obviously the leader over there, and I know those guys love him. So look forward to seeing what they continue to do.
And we'll see if they make it onto our power rankings next week from Jake. Stay tuned for that. All right, last thing. Listen, I wanted to put together a couple of big headlines, to start the week and just kind of like get stuff organized so that our brains are in the right spot. There's one last thing here. This isn't like a big national story. This is more like a sub Barstool story that I found very interesting. I think it's good for Jake to kind of get some exposure to stuff too, now that you're fully on Team Barstool. But like Colin, you had said passionately in pre-production meetings, you were like, it was like, does anybody have a topic or something they want to talk about? And Colin was like, fuck Jesse Winker, fuck Jesse Winker, fuck Jesse Winker. I've been biting my tongue to get to this point. I guess we'll step into Colin's corner for a second. And what the fuck's up with Jesse Winker, dude?
To be honest, I love Jesse Winker, but he's like the best type of villain that you can have right now. So back a couple years ago, we were playing. He was on the Cincinnati Reds. He had caught a ball to end the game, sliding catch. I think it was like 1-0 or something like that. Very low scoring game. It was a rainy night, and basically slides into the wall and looks up at the Mets fans, just gives them a wave. And we just always took that personal. It was always like a funny, anytime we play them in Cincinnati, Mets fans just start getting after him like that. So now he's in Seattle, and go figure, we have an interleague game against them. What are the chances? And not only just like that past rivalry, I guess you can call it, whatever, but just him coming into the box and cranking that home run. It was like, you can't script this stuff. It was incredible. So the guy drives me nuts, but like, you got to respect him. I love it.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. I like the fact that like Mets fans are willing to like sheepishly villainize a guy like Jesse Winker, who's just, to me, is like your classic Major League Baseball player. Like he's a great fundamental player. Maybe he's not somebody who can just like fucking completely take over a game. He's just solid every single year.
He's just a guy you'd want on your team.
Yeah.
He's like,
and he gets under guys' skin easily, or
Yeah.
a fan base, and I can see that. Just like the little subtle wave that I could see, it just drives the fans nuts.
Yeah, but it's all fun though too. Like it
should be, yeah. He's just fucking
like,
around.
We have a really good thing going with the Mets fans. The person I do have a problem with on Seattle is fucking Paul Sewald. This motherfucker creating this fake ass narrative that the Mets pretty much just gave up on him. He's 1-14. He was on the Mets for 4 years. He's 1-14. He's got a 5.5 ERA with that. Like, what do you want us to do? We didn't.
Yeah,
give
it's time
up
to go.
you. Yeah,
it's time to go.
But he's walking around.
Yeah,
he's walking around like this in Citi Field, and it's like, what did
trash.
you do when you were here?
Trash.
Yeah, those are not good numbers.
And that's the difference. Is Jesse Winker? It's like a fun little like back and forth we have there. Paul Sewald's just trying to create something that doesn't exist.
Well, maybe a little resentment there.
Maybe for him.
The organization, but it's not very realistic.
No.
If you're 1-14, I don't think they gave up on you. You just kind of ran its course, and it's time to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and that's all I have from Colin's corner. The Mets obviously lost their first series. Can't win them all, but if you tell me halfway through May that's the first time they'd lose, then I'd take that every single year.
As you should.
Yeah, I think any team would.
Let's give some weekly awards. Thank you, Colin, for the corner. Dude of the week, guy. This one's pretty easy for me. It's Bryce Harper. We talked about earlier, even though I got his injury wrong. He's hitting over 600. He's walking twice as often as he's striking out. He's got 3 home runs, 8 runs. The Phillies are fucking torched the Dodgers, put up so many runs on the back of that amazing offense that we've talked about before. That's like a softball lineup where if they can catch it and they can pitch it, just put those fucking donkeys in a situation where they can take a game over with a couple 3-run homers. Bryce Harper, I'm glad we introduced Dude of the Week last week with Shohei Ohtani, so our audience could kind of get a vibe. Bryce Harper perfectly profiles as Dude of the Week. And every time he puts up the numbers, I'm inclined to give him the fucking award, because for me, pound for pound, Bryce Harper, absolute fucking dude when it comes to being in between the lines.
No, he is. You're right about that. And he'll run through a wall for his teammates. He posts every day. And he's not going to let this hold him back. It must be pretty painful to keep him out of right field, but fortunately enough, he can still swing and be there to help with the offensive production for the boys.
Yep. And I think if they have to move Castellanos out on the right, or that things can get ugly and dicey there. But I'm just going back. Bryce Harper, a little injured, carrying the team, putting up big runs. We introduced Bag of the Week last week.
Bag of the Week.
Yeah. What do we got?
Yeah, this is, I like this award because it just shows, a guy's nuts out here, grinding in a situation like this. My Bag of the Week, maybe slightly unexpected because of the circumstances, but Hunter Green is that guy for me. 7 1/3 innings pitched, no hits, earned run, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts. But look, the guy is 1-6 with a 6.21 ERA, 1.56 WHIP, not pitching anywhere near his expectations. Obviously, the fan base's expectations, the organization, but this guy does not get down on himself. He works extremely hard. He's big. He's physical, and he's going to be a guy in this rotation for a long, long time, at the very top of this rotation, and one of the best arms in all of baseball. So regardless of the loss, it's big nuts out of Hunter Green doing what he did on Sunday. And I look forward to him kind of blossoming and turning into just a dominant ace in this game for the next decade.
I love it. And the game would benefit tremendously if he becomes that guy. He was very polished in the interviews afterwards. But yeah, Bag of the Week, just having the big ass nuts. Like, yeah, the Reds are fucking down. They're trash. He's getting his shit pushed in. His stuff's fucking electric. He can't find it. Then all of a sudden, it's just like boom. And like we said earlier, 118 pitches, most pitches thrown by a starting pitcher so far this season. Perfect guy for Bag of the Week. Perfect.
And once he develops that and refines the command in more precise spots early in the count, and he can throw that, he can dump in that slider, that breaking ball for strikes and for putaways, he's going to eliminate guys' ability to just sit on the fastball. And it doesn't matter how hard you throw. If guys can eliminate your off speed and just look for the heater, they're going to take good passes at it almost every time. Doesn't mean they're going to hit it over the fence or for damage, but you're giving them a much better chance to do said damage. So once he continues to refine those kind of things, he works hard. He's a Vandy guy. He's got a good pitching coach. He's going to be just fine. And I can't wait to see it. The game needs more guys like him. Unfortunately, not many can throw 103 miles an hour.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, how fucking hard is that? I mean, I know you were pumping gas 96, 97, like, oh, that's fucking gas. And no offense. It's just like this guy's throwing 101, 102. Just
yeah.
like
And there's multiple guys like that. I don't know what it is. Is it their understanding of biomechanics and the way their body moves? We got to find out. I want to talk to Hunter Green, and
we got to get to the bottom.
Some of these other guys. I know that there are these pitching academies where they break down all the biomechanics, but you still got to have a big, strong, physical dude that has the God-given body type to move this way. I don't know if it's just nutrition or training or what it is, but there's an incredible amount of guys that are in the triple digits and above 100 as starting pitchers. It's incredible.
Yeah. Something to keep our eyes out for. Bag of the Week, Hunter Green. Last award of the week. We're just only doing 3 this week, guys. I'm going back to my favorite award. We're giving it to the Bald Guy of the Week. This is an amazing situation. It's Bald Guy of the Week. We're crossing the pond. We're going to the United Kingdom. Colin, I know you've got family from there. He's wearing the fucking colors. Shout out to Colin's dad. Calling a man bald can now be classed as sexual harassment in the United Kingdom. They go on to explain a council of judges had made this ruling based on their own personal experience, saying that men bald more than women, and that if you call someone bald, it becomes a sexual characteristic or gender identifying characteristic, and then that becomes a protected class of people based on UK law. And
so
they called
it stupid.
Well, they called the guy a bald cunt, and then they fired him a month later. So the guy filed a fucking lawsuit about it. He fortunately got 3 judges who happen to be bald and were personally upset about it. Bald Guy of the Week goes to the fucking 3 bald judges and the bald cunt who got fired, and just our bald guys that are taking it on the chin in the United Kingdom.
Just fucking grow up. Grow up, Yeah, you're bald. Deal with it
personally.
So you're taking the other side. You don't like it.
No. It's
this is the complete opposite harassment. Well, I mean, we're just staying together, brother. I mean, we can't just throw these guys out just because they're bald and they're complaining.
Yeah, just grow up. You know what? You can't have it all. You don't have hair. Big deal. You've come to terms with it.
Yeah, I have. I mean, it
Kind of.
doesn't mean it doesn't hurt when Miles Teller tells me that I take my hat off and he goes, ooh, like that doesn't feel good.
That was an incredible clip.
That was really good.
Incredible.
What I say, you just got to hold up the mirror
to society.
Yeah.
And aren't we all in agreement that society is just disgusting?
There's a lot of that out there.
So he basically just said, I'm the reflection of
don't dive too deep into it.
In other news, I went to the gym. I've been to the gym 4 times since our last recording. So,
well, the workouts you send me are pretty elaborate. So
what do you think?
If you're doing everything you're sending me, then yeah, you're right on pace with where you should be.
So I think this is a good transition point because I'm doing homework that you're giving me. Let's change this up for a second. Yeah, I'm doing homework that you're. Yeah. You've given not necessarily homework, but basically where I told you like, hey, I'll buy into some stuff. You're going to buy into some stuff.
No, and you had nothing to do with this really. I mean, you did a little bit, but I respect how much you know about the game, like weird shit too. I respect it. For me, I have a confession to make, and I am going to start being much more considerate of some of these big stats that are very, very important.
This big of you.
Well, no, it's just, I'm adjusting with the times. I'm not going to be one of those old guys who still thinks that, the traditional slash line is the best metric to analyze a player's performance. And we'll just kind of stick with offense right now. But I like the weighted on base average, and I'm starting to understand the weighted runs created and WRC plus, which is adjusted for, park and league. It makes the park and league adjustments. Still trying to figure out, how the calculations and the formulas. Jesus, like I did calculus, but 20 years ago. So I'm still brushing up on the math.
Don't get caught up in the details, though.
Well,
don't beat yourself
up if
you
want
can.
to get caught up in the details just so I understand it all. But the WOBA, it's just a more accurate representation of a player's production. And just reading some things about it, I'm like, if this is much more accurate, then why all players need to kind of rally behind this? And I know a lot of the young guys, most of them have, but I think that there's still some that don't even look at it. And then the WRC plus, I'll just throw the old slash line out the window because it doesn't take into it. It measures everything very similarly. The W, what do you call it? You call it WOBA? You call it WOBA? The fuck do you call it?
Call it WABA.
I like WOBA.
Yeah,
you Adam Jones, when I was in Baltimore, would always, it's all about your WOBA. And this was fucking 2010, 2011. So he was way ahead of the curve.
Adam Jones?
Adam Jones. Yeah, he'd walk around the club out, hey, it's all about the WOBA. I'm like, what the fuck is WOBA? Swear to God. We'll have him on the show, have him talk about it. But I just like it. I like that it basically combines every aspect of hitting into one metric. And that's something that I can rally behind. And it, because I guess with, OPS, with slugging, the metric of the value of each extra base hit is not different or some shit. I'm still learning. So stay with me. But when I'm looking at players now, it's always, weighted on base or the WRC. I start there. And I feel like it gives me a more accurate representation of what I'm looking at when I'm trying to break down certain guys.
Hey, big fella, I want to say thank you for getting vulnerable here and taking something.
I always get vulnerable.
You're a vulnerable man.
Just spend more time around me. You'll see.
Now, I think a lot of people don't follow this stuff though, too, right? I think there's people that do understand, and they say, you're saying WOBA, I'll go WOBA. Weighted runs created plus, OPS plus, stuff like that. Is there what percentage do you think of big leaguers know about this stuff?
Now it's way more. And pre-series, we get these packets of information that the analytical team puts together. It's this proprietary information that they that they put together from all different places, and it gives you all these breakdowns. It gives you all of this type of stuff. So the younger players, I would say it's just going on a limb. I'd say it's probably 70%. I'd say it's about 70%. It could be higher, it could be a little bit lower. But when I came into the league, I mean, most of the guys wouldn't even look at much of the stats. They wanted to know what certain players had done in their last 20 at bats, and watch a little bit of tape, maybe read the swing, and then go from there. That was about it. But I think this is also really good for, maybe even better for teams when they're trying to evaluate talent and players. Looking at the WOBA, looking at the WRC plus, OPS plus.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much. Like if I'm starting against a lineup, let's say the Mets, okay, Collins Mets, I'm probably not I'm not gonna look at Nemos and McNeil's and Alonso. I'm not gonna look at their WOBAs. I'm probably not gonna look at that stuff. I'm gonna be looking more at kind of their production and what they're swinging at, what they're swinging and missing at within their last, 6 to 8 games.
I could tell you what Pete Alonso's swinging and missing at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What nasty sliders that are strike the ball? Yeah, no shit. Everyone swings and misses at those.
No, he is notorious. I mean, everyone in that ballpark knew yesterday he was swinging at that full.
He just had a tough game. Leave him alone.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
So then, like, as you're going through too, like, it's just for me, when I like to look at players, I like to look at their baseball reference profiles, and I like to look at these numbers and how do they, how do things track over time and stuff. And so it'll be good for you now that you kind of have a taste and appetite for it when a game comes up and maybe there's a player you see and you're like, I want to learn more about this guy or whatever. Now, the more you become, you kind of look for this stuff, and then the easier it is to kind of, and I don't necessarily want to say like more fun it is to like sit there and compare the guys, but like it just, you get a better sense of like who the difference makers are. And a good example I'll give you, like one of your old teammates is like the fucking poster boy for advanced analytics, because if you see him take the field, he's very unspectacular. His raw numbers aren't spectacular. I don't know if he ever hit for more than 22 home runs in a season. He didn't swipe a ton of bases, but he rarely got thrown out. And it's Ben Zobrist. But if you took Ben Zobrist and you applied some of the stuff that we'll talk about, I mean, Ben Zobrist's profile is comparatively to like a great 3-hitter during the middle of those times when he was with the Rays and over with the Cubs and stuff. Or, when you look at his weighted runs created plus, or you looked at his OPS plus, or you looked at some of the adjusted numbers, like, but that's a guy who like maybe the eye test kind of skips, or maybe that's a guy, he played D3 baseball before transferring to Division I school. Like that's a guy who like the game naturally isn't very friendly to, but through this kind of stuff, then you can look back and be like, holy fuck, dude, Ben Zobrist is so fucking good. And the fact that like the Cubs only paid him $15 million a year, and like that first year when he came in, like, and there's a reason he was successful. So I just use him as like a poster boy. That's a guy you go, holy fuck, like, okay, maybe it is worth it to understand these stats. There's my fucking soliloquy. So
yeah. And so do you think that these new advanced numbers or these advanced stats helped him out? Because the other way, like the traditional slash line or the numbers that we would use to evaluate players didn't kind of showcase certain things that he does better than it looks to the naked eye, like at first, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think because once we got a handle on like just how valuable a walk was, and just how valuable it was to walk as much as you strike out, and just how valuable it is to not get caught stealing, and like the fact that a triple is significantly more valuable than a single. And we just like didn't really know that, how much more like you should really be putting value on a double. You should be putting value on a guy that has kind of uniform splits where it's not like they're awesome against righties and shitty against lefties. Like he's a switch hitter. And then what else have we learned? It's awesome if you can get a guy that can play a couple positions average or above average. So the fact that Zobrist in a pinch could go move over to right field at a time when you had to swap guys in, like, the versatility means he can be in the lineup more often. I think but at the same time though, like the Rays were not the first, but the Rays did such a good job at figuring this stuff out. And he really made a name for himself with the Rays, and, winning with the Royals too. So he, to me, is like the perfect timing too. Like it had to be someone at his time, his age, his generation. And, But I go back to Ben Zobrist all the time when you talk about advanced stats, and it's like, well, he's the perfect reason why you would want to be familiar with it, because he's a guy where if you really know what the numbers say, he's a guy where it's like that guy's so crazy valuable at his height. Where if you're not paying attention to it, you're like, yeah, whatever. Ben Zobrist, it's fucking Ben Zobrist.
Well, no, I'm just looking at this, and one thing that was surprising to me, on base percentage is around twice as valuable than slugging. The exact ratio is times 1.8, which I didn't know that, didn't realize that. But looking through like these calculations, I mean, it makes more sense once you dive into it. So I'm just, I feel like I'm a student of the game again in a different way, and I like it. I like it a lot. So let's keep getting better. Teach me.
So can I ask you now, just we're in this moment, I have to seize this opportunity to ask you then.
Yeah.
So you're on the mound, say, we don't need to be in like the middle of the zone where like you're just fucking everybody's getting put down, but just say like, you're in a spot as a professional where like you're very comfortable with the stuff you bring to the table. I mean, would you rather pitch against a hitter where you're like, well, this guy can hit the ball at the ballpark if you make a mistake? Or would you rather pitch against a guy where it's like, he's a tough out, he fucking makes adjustments pitch to pitch?
Well, sometimes the guy that can just hit the ball at the ballpark has more holes. And the guy who, a guy like McNeil, he works a 10 pitch at bat, like you're saying, and ends up on first base, or slaps a double down the line. So there were a couple guys that you didn't want to face that could put the ball in the seats. So I say not necessarily didn't want to face, but in a big situation, you're very careful about that. But there's something about a guy who can spoil pitchers' pitches and get to the next one, just waiting for you to make a mistake. And that's what guys like McNeil does. So I actually want to look at his numbers, because I might rather face some big donkey power hitter like a Soler than a McNeil.
Mm-hmm.
And no offense to Soler, like he can leave the yard at any moment, but there are more holes there.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting stuff to think about as you look into these calculations and you see somebody like Bill James tell you, well, it's more valuable to get on base than it is to have a higher slugging percentage. I think it's interesting from your perspective. Like, you're the one who tried to get these guys out. You're the one who had to manage a lineup and stuff. And you have that perspective of like, well, and so maybe if there is some credence to being like, yeah, I fucking hate pitching against the guys that had high OBPs, and give me the fucking dude who swings and misses because I can execute stuff. So I just think it's cool to see it from both sides. Oh.
Yeah, and the art of constructing a roster is very interesting to me too, because maybe you have those guys with super high on base percentages, and then you have somebody else that's just really high contact guy, puts the ball in play, not necessarily a home run hitter, but you get him behind guys that are just always on base. That could or has a really high WRC, runs created. So it's just it's very interesting, now that I'm kind of diving into the stuff, and old stats might not be as important or viewed as importantly as they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of part of part of the game, growing and more information, and people like, what'd you say his name was? Bill James. And then who's Tom Tango? Tom Tango wrote the book.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, there's guys like this coming up with these equations that it's interesting. I don't know. Like I said, it's a foreign language to me a little bit. As a player, I didn't look at much of it, because I knew what I was trying to do when I went out there. I try to assess and evaluate the lineup strengths, what they were going to try and do to me, and go from there. But now doing this and trying to break down teams, I mean, these numbers are extremely important to look at, and
right.
And I like it. I need a calculator.
Colin, get him a calculator. And this is good because we are going to come up with our own statistic this year. I don't know like what it's going to be or how we get there, but like the more you learn about this stuff, like we'll release our statistic. And I don't know if it's going to be for hitters.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's going to be for something, but it's like, this is the official starting 9 metric. And then maybe this is like, I'm not even joking. If we can kind of scope it out enough, we should get like an actual mathematician who's like working on this stuff to come in with us and like help us get something published. Because we got the platform for it.
Let's put the word out.
Someone's got to have the data.
I'm on it.
All right, Colin's on it. Let's stay on this though, now that because the wheels are turning, it's like, you know, we're looking at players, we're talking about statistics. Is it too early for trade speculation? There's some players have really stood out on some bad teams, and there's some other teams that, you know, quite frankly, could use a little help. Some players that jump out, obviously, or I should just, let's ask you this. You saw the Red Sox play this weekend. Do they look like they need some fucking help?
Yeah, I mean, they do. More or less the, you know, underproduction in their lineup, really. You know, Dahlbeck, he's a good hitter. He's not producing. Obviously, Trevor Story's not performing at the plate the way he would like to, the way the Red Sox assumed he was going to. I think he's a rock solid dude. I feel the same way with Dahlbeck. I think those guys are going to hit, but, you know, pretty much the only guys in that lineup they're hitting are Bogarts and Devers, I believe. So they definitely need more in that division, man. It's just, they don't fuck around in that division. I mean, Toronto's no joke. Tampa, the Yankees, and I mean, Baltimore's not just going to roll over for you either. So they need. I mean, I don't think they're not going to be. They're not getting rid of guys. I don't believe. Should they bring some guys in? Maybe. I mean, Evaldi's pitching well. Pivetta needs to pitch better. You know, Rich Hill's going to give you what he always does. You know, he's probably going to grind through 4 to 6 innings. I mean, he's absolutely grunting as loud as possible on every pitch, but what is he, 41?
Yeah, he's the oldest player basically. I think he's 39 or 40.
Yeah, so I watched him, you know, he pitched on Saturday, and I'm out there, I'm like, dude, it hurts me just to watch you do this still. Red Sox have to step up if they want to do anything this year in the division.
So at what point for the Red Sox, since it's early, but you're already 12 games back in a division where you're seeing the Yankees are just not losing games. Yeah. At what point do you call it?
Well, what do you mean by call it? Do you just?
Well, you're not. You know,
you bring up young guys and see what you have. You get them some experience, or
yeah. At what point does what point does the state? No, not necessarily, because they're going to keep a bunch of players. But at what point are you like, hey, let's experiment with different stuff? Because I know it's early, but you're 12 games back in a competitive division.
And I think the Red Sox actually are benefited by the fact that they have a couple of last place seasons under their belt in the last decade where they've instantly turned around and have like finished top of the division and then used that draft pick to their benefit. So like, they're not strangers to like, fuck, we suck this year and this is a terrible division. But at the same time, like, dude, they do have these pieces where it's like, you have Devers, you have fucking Bogarts, you have you have a great core of players to be good. Obviously, going out and spend money on Trevor Story. The starting pitching obviously was going to be a question mark too. They could be also, the front office could have gotten screwed where they thought this pitching would be enough by traditional standards. Like if you take this pitching staff last year, assuming the balls are different, is this pitching staff better? Is it worse? I don't think the starting pitching is that good. Like they have to be 500 if they're talking about wild card trading for someone and salvaging the season. But then the other thing though is if you're 12 games back, like is there a chance you do sell a Rich Hill or you do sell a Jackie Bradley Jr.? I don't know what his contract is. I'm just spitballing here, but like they do have pieces where I'm sure you playoff teams would be interested in them.
They could, but you know how much you're going to get for those pieces, really. Their offensive production has to be better. Just does. What is their? I was trying to find what their starting ERA is and how they're doing, but. They've only got, I mean, Evaldi's throwing the ball well. He's right around a 3, but
yeah, but like Evaldi, Pivetta, like are these guys that?
Well, Pivetta's still, he's trying to figure his shit out. I mean, he hasn't pitched well. He threw well against the Rangers, but it is the Rangers.
Like, could you imagine this Red Sox starting pitching in a 7-game series?
No. So
that's where it's like, if you can't.
Well, I think the team knows that too. They're not dummies. They get it.
Fucking Michael Walker is still getting a paycheck. Good for him.
He's the team leader in wins.
I know. Michael Wacha's
Yeah.
got a filthy changeup, man. That's what, and the changeup keeps playing these days. Changeup fucking plays. What about, all right, Danny Vogelbach. Danny Vogelbach is killing it right now for the Pirates. DH is uniform everywhere. It looks like Derek Shelton, looks like the mojo's starting to wear off a little bit in fucking Steel City.
I can see it. Yeah. A big
Vogel?
big left-handed bat to come off the bench too in a big situation. Yeah. I mean, I think there's plenty of teams that would like to have him. He's a good guy in the clubhouse too. He's funny as hell. Yeah. What do you think?
I think he fucking mashes fastballs. He's a bit, but he's just like, there's just nowhere you could even hide him. He has to be a DH. So now you've limited your team because like there are teams out
You
there
can
that
put him
have
at
good
first
DHs.
base.
You
You
can?
can put him at first. Yeah. I
Really?
mean, I'm not saying he's going to be an elite first baseman, but he can play there.
What about Josh Bell? He can fucking hit.
Josh, he can play. I could definitely see the Nationals getting rid of him before the deadline. Maybe I don't know. He signed a 1-year deal there. Where's he at in his contract?
I think
You could probably get something decent for him.
I would guess he's getting 1 year, $7.5, $8 million. And I think he's leading MLB in average right now.
1 year, 10 million.
1 year, 10 million. Thank you, Colin. It's a perfect guy to flip because either it's an injury or something. He's kind of got that bad attitude where not bad, I mean bad good, where it's like this is a guy who's been around. He's been on so many shitty teams. You know, it seems like he signed a 1 year, 10 deal, knew if I play hard, I could get the fuck out of here and go to a playoff contender. Does that matter to guys when they're like Josh Bell's age, they've been around for a while? Like, does that motivate you to play better at the chance that you could go play in October?
Yeah, I mean, you're always motivated to play better, though. Like you can't put much into that. Like, oh, it's a like guy. You hear people talk about it's a contract year, so he's gonna play harder, whatever. Like, man, there's very few guys out there who are not trying to perform at their highest potential every time they're fucking on the field. Maybe a little bit more preparation goes into it, like in the off season to coming in the best shape they've been in or whatever. But guys are out there trying to put up numbers all the time. So, this is a good opportunity for Bell to go to what is he, 29 years old, to go to a contender and a team who's gonna potentially make the postseason. So I mean, it's a tough year over there in Washington. I don't necessarily know what they're doing. I mean, who knows where Strasburg is. You've got Soto, you've got some decent players, and they're trying to figure out what they have in their rotation with some decent arms, but right now they're just not a very good team.
Yeah. They got that Adon guy, number 60, big fucking righty.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's one of those
terrible numbers, but looks good on the mound.
Right? Powerful.
Looks good out there. Yeah.
Fuck, that's a big boy.
He'll be good.
I like watching it pitch so far.
Yeah.
And you can see he's figuring it out start to start. All right. I guess my thing with trade deadline stuff, it's never too early to start talking about the pieces and when they could go. The one kind of like weird one that I kind of like is I'm interested to see if the Dodgers, I know it sounds crazy, but like I wouldn't put it past the Dodgers of going out and adding a big piece of starting rotation, especially if Kershaw's on the shelf. Urias has been better. And it's more about the fact that the NL West is a wagon, and like you can't just take a couple of weeks off and hope that somebody from AAA comes in and plug a spot. Like, especially if the Diamondbacks are going to keep pitching it, it's always tough to play in Colorado. The fucking Padres are hot as fuck right now. The Giants are great. Like the Dodgers, even if you look at them as a super team and a super lineup, like I can see their front office. Obviously, they always are aggressive, but if the Dodgers go out and they make a fucking like trade, like a notable trade, like don't be surprised. I know a lot of people come back and say, oh, it's the fucking Dodgers, but they just don't have room for mistakes. It's not.
Yeah,
like
but they're the
White
Dodgers,
Sox.
though. They're the Dodgers. I don't worry about the Dodgers too much. And they always seem to have a guy that can come up and fill in and perform at a high level. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And they're one of those organizations that does that. Cardinals have been like that for a long time. Just you see a guy that comes up and fills in and gets big hits, or you have a reliever that comes in throwing 100 miles an hour. Like, where do they keep getting these guys from? So I don't think the Dodgers are going to panic at all about that. You're right, though. The division is very tough with San Diego, San Francisco. It's no joke, but it is the Dodgers at the same time. And I think they'll be all right. I don't know if they had a big arm like that. I think they might look from within.
Last kind of team here I have just on like the general status of like, do you see them selling stuff off? I wanted to talk to you about this team. I've been sitting on it. You saw them play again, Rangers. This is a very interesting team to me because they went out, they made a strategic, obviously strategic with Cole Calhoun, and then a couple big splashes with Seager and Semien. You'd hope that they get going a little bit, but it's like, hey, they're just bad, man. They look bad. I don't know. It looks, if you're a Rangers fan, like this is a good time to be utterly hopeless right now.
Yeah, I think you need to be slightly optimistic though for what the future will bring with this organization. They have a lot of guys coming. It's been tough for Semien. Seager's not really performing the way that he would like to. I mean, he's the best guy in that lineup, but it's tough. I feel for Semien because that he wants to do everything in his power to perform and produce, after signing that contract. But the guys are coming. They have guys are trying to figure out too, to see what they have. A couple guys in the rotation, a couple guys in their lineup, and you got to keep rolling them out there, right? You give them a certain amount of opportunities, and then it comes time to make a decision. So yeah, it's going to continue to be a tough year for them. But knowing, what I know about some of the young guys they have coming up, they should be really good in a couple of years. And I know it sucks to kind of wait a couple of years, but what else are you going to do? You got Seager, you got Semien. There are some guys there, but they definitely need more.
Yeah, the timing on this is tough for Rangers fans. Very rarely do you see that much money get spent in off season where like the top prospects aren't already aligned. But this was a historic offseason. These were supposed to be a free agent class that was different than other free agent classes.
And if you don't get them, you miss them.
And you might be playing against them, right?
Right. And you gotta compete with Anaheim and Houston, right? So good. That's what's tough too. You're looking in front of you. You see the teams that you have to play 17, 18, however many times a year in your division. Okay, how do we compete with those guys? Well, two of the pieces that we need, we went out and got them. Just, the performance isn't what you want from them.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good move. And like you said, if you don't sign them, you might have to play against them.
$500 million.
$500 million. That's
front office talk with Jake Arrieta and Barstool. Carl, we got to get a better name for that segment because I do like the trade speculation. I was like kicking this around, but like, I used to want to be in the front. Like when I was a kid, I was like, all I wanted to do is be in a front office. I wanted to play as far as I could, but I was like, I'm not. Do you want to get weird for a second?
Yeah. Where do you want to go with that?
No,
I had great notes today, by the way.
Yeah, actually, I was going to give you a compliment. I've thoroughly enjoyed how fucking dialed in you are to this conversation. You don't hold back in the prep work. Okay. I was actually wondering if we could go out west. We spent so much time east. I'm in New York as we record this, and with Colin, everybody likes to suck the Yankees dick, that fucking Mets dick. Even where I'm from, Midwest home cooking buys and stuff. We don't go out west very much. I was wondering if we could do a little segment called "Let's Head Out West." We're gonna go west. We're gonna talk about some guys. I want to like talk about left-handed pitching for a second. And you had made the great comment that like lefties kind of get overlooked as like standalone guys. Like people don't think about the lefties as much.
No, they don't. And one guy in particular, and Carlos Rodon, regardless of the tough outing he had in St. Louis, he's a big, powerful lefty with 96 to 99 mile an hour fastball. And what I saw a few days ago, his velocity, very similar upticks that DeGrom has had as far as the increase in velocity, like consistently every year for the past, 4 or 5 years. So that's very, very interesting. And he's not your typical lefty. 88, 92, change up, little curveball. He's pounding you with four seamers up in the strike zone and a nasty wipeout slider. And he scrapped the changeup, I believe, almost completely and uses his curveball as his changeup pitch because it's got more of a differential. And he needed something with a little more of a gap off of his slider. So he's kind of one of my front runners for the Cy Young, even though he struggled Sunday, gave up 8 runs in 3 2/3. Hadn't allowed a home run yet. Gave up a home run to Paul Goldschmidt, but he's a monster. He's going to bounce back from that. And we had this conversation earlier today. When you're one of those guys who has an opportunity or a chance to be in that Cy Young talk, as he does, you can't have many games like that he had on Sunday. And you're allowed one maybe, but he's gonna have to bounce back, which he will. But Carlos Rodon, one of my favorite guys to watch this year, mainly because the amount of swings and misses he can get on that four-seam fastball.
Crazy. It jumps, it pops. He's deceptive. He's a workhorse. He's a big body. A lot of people said, we got dead arm last year at the end of the season, that he just doesn't have it. But Carlos is Carlos. Carlos wants to sit in a tree, or what do they call it, deer stand, and hunt.
He's a big hunter, huh?
Yeah, he's a guy who, when he gets away from the game, he's not going to get away and sit down and watch the fucking Yankees Red Sox game on a Sunday night. When he leaves the field, he's leaving that shit behind him. So because he's just a fucking country boy, just keeps to himself.
We'd get along. I like that.
You would. He's very fiery and competitive, and this is just getting to watch him pitch for the White Sox and get a chance to know him a little bit from the Barstool Chicago days. And he is a really good guy, and I know that he sees that San Francisco opportunity is put stuff behind him. He wants to be the guy that got drafted 3rd overall, that has the legendary college stories of this guy was the fucking power hitting freshman, All-American, first baseman, pitcher. He was a legend in his time in college baseball, and running into some arm issues. I really like what you were talking about. He's not that traditional lefty of mixing the change and changing speeds. He gets on the mound, he pitches fucking, I'm coming right at you, dude. I'm fucking coming at you with my four-seam fastball, which that's fucking hard to do, man. We don't see many of
those guys as starting pitchers. There's some relievers like that, some high octane left-handed relievers with some mid to upper 90 stuff, but you don't see it very often from a lefty starter. So I love watching him pitch.
Do you like him wearing number 55? Do you like the way he looks in the Giants uniform? Is it a good fit for you?
I like him in the Giants uniform. I really didn't even know what number he was. Don't really care about that. I'm watching his stuff.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was a thing where you'd be yeah, this guy, it looks kind of weird out there. I feel like lefties can take bigger liberties with their uniforms. Barry Zito was 75 and would wear the super baggy jersey, but if he was righty and did that, people would just I feel like they'd ostracize him,
Maybe so. I don't know, man.
Okay. What about there's another lefty though who's got a filthy change. And I feel like lefties with filthy changes, they just got huge balls, man.
Mm-hmm.
You've liked this guy for a
he's
while.
More that he's slightly more crafty. I mean, he not that he's a thumber, but that changeup, it looks like it stops when it's 5 or 6 feet from home plate, and that's a characteristic of a changeup that some of the great left-handed pitchers had over time, and he's got it. I don't know if this number has stayed the same, but a couple of days ago, guys were 0 for 30 against his changeup with 20 strikeouts. Very, very impressive.
0 for 30.
0 for
with
30.
20 Ks.
With 20 Ks, and he's got the ability to put it wherever he wants. That's 90% of the time. It's not only a great changeup, it's well located. It's a good differential from his fastball, and then he's got good command of his fastball too. He's got a nice curveball slider. I don't know what the hell he wants to call it, but very polished, and he's one of the reasons that the Angels are doing as well as they are.
And it's got to be, I would imagine at some levels as a pitcher is coming up and really developing, you're at that point in your career where you want to establish yourself. It's got to be helpful when you turn around, you see Mike Trout in center, you see Anthony Rendon playing third base, you've got Shohei Ohtani DHing, and you've got these pieces coming together. We talked about Taylor Ward, the Fresno State Bulldog in right field, and Marsh, and just fucking great players around him. Does that has to help, I imagine, give you confidence.
It helps a lot. It helps a lot. When you're surrounded by guys like that, you want to produce and you want to perform as one of those guys. Bring what you do to the table as best you can, and show you deserve to be there, right? When you as you said, you turn around, you see those guys, shit, I gotta step it up, or I need to be good, as good as I can to stay with this group. You don't want to lose that opportunity to be in a clubhouse like that. And it's happened before. Guys put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they're surrounded by great players, and sometimes they can't, they can't handle that, and they end up in AAA. So
What do you think Joe Maddon's saying to him before he takes a start? Do you think Joe's like, hey babe, just fucking, hey babe, just pound that zone today, babe? Or is he just like, is there any element of like having a cool guy around like Joe that helps you get going in your career?
Joe keeps you loose. He, it's like any anxiety that might be there pre-game or whatever kind of dissolves with a guy like that in the dugout with you. And he exudes that, and that's why players love him. So I think there's a lot of that to guys like Anthony Rendon, right? Is a guy who can keep his heart rate like very low. And that's a skill that great players have. And I think Joe helps the young guys kind of figure that out. And if Joe can't, go to Rendon. I mean, that guy looks like he just rolled out of bed, and he's ready to go.
Right. I do like that the show already is taking on these early like we're Angels guys, we're Mets guys, like we're kind of getting into these. Yeah, I know, Jake. Well,
he's getting there.
I like the Mets. Fuck you.
Next week, I want to do a segment. So your team's average, where we just talk about teams that are average right now that we have hardly talked about the Guardians. Obviously, I'm just looking through a couple like.
Yeah, we got to get into the Guardians.
We're going to get into the Marlins. I want to throw some love to the Blue Jays next week. We have already just a little bit, but we'll come back with some of the more, the 500 teams. The Braves, obviously defending World Series champs, are a little bit under, and we'll take a look at the Rockies.
Yeah, we don't want to piss anybody off. We'll get to all the teams.
Yeah, and
we love everybody.
Well, on the subject of fan engagement, I do want to circle back. I got a couple last thing. I got a couple questions for you, Jake, but we do want to emphasize again. Question number one, we're looking to change the name. If you have good suggestions, I mean, the name thing, it just keeps coming back. Like, we're going to do some stuff around starting 9 and some 9-based segments, but I did get the name. Do you like the name Baseball?
It's all right. It's all right. Well,
he hates it.
And this is one thing we can't change it until we have something that's rock solid.
Yeah, that's good point.
It's got to be great. It's got to be great. And I know people want us to change it, but we're not willing to risk going with a name that is something we don't really love. So, like Carl's saying, all the recommendations are encouraged, and please subscribe to the channel, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Okay. We love all you guys. We're going to put a fucking great show together for you guys as much as we can. Ain't that right, Carl?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we are.
Come on.
All right, the last thing for you here, Jake. People are asking. I have a couple questions for you. This segment's called Ask Jake. Yeah. Just an opportunity for guys who just have questions. All right, first one. We'll just keep this, however you want to take it. If you had to pick a member of the 2016 Cubs team as a tag team wrestling partner, who's going to be your tag team wrestling partner from that squad?
Chapman.
Oh, that was quick.
That's an easy one. I mean, there's some other dudes, but come on. Who wants to wrestle Chapman?
Was your uniform custom, or is it like off the rack? How tailored is a professional uniform? And this question's being asked because you look so good in it. How tailored is it?
You can tailor just about anything, any part of the uniform that you want, whether it's how fitting they are around, the pants are around your quads, your knee, your calf, what they look like at the bottom. You can take the crotch up higher, because you don't want to look like you just shit yourself. So you can kind of have it rest just under the bag, and then you can tailor the waist any way you want. And then the jersey's the same way. You can have it a certain amount of material taken out of the chest or the arms, the shoulders. Yeah, the whole thing. But I wore a size 50 jersey. And then I made some subtle tweaks to it. You want it to fit good. I want it to be tailor fit without being too tight.
How often are you wearing those same jerseys now, though? Because I thought I read something pretty recently like that it's only like once every 3 or something, like even it might be even less. Like how often when you were playing at least?
Well, I know the teams want to like covertly mark authenticate them, your jerseys, and then like auction them or sell them. And I would get pissed off when that would happen. So I started to like just buy all of my own jerseys. And there were times where they would maybe take it without asking you. I've seen that happen before, and that fucking didn't fly with me very well. If you're gonna take my shit, just tell me first. But yeah, we would rotate jerseys. Yeah, I mean, maybe every handful of starts or so. Yeah, and we'd get fit during spring training. They'd come in, Rawlings would come in, and now I think Nike does the uniforms, but they'd ask you want your pants the same way, your jersey different, and then you'd go from there. And they just, anytime you needed new stuff, they'd send it out.
Who's a player who dominated when you were coming up, you thought for sure was going to be a stud, didn't pan out? Or if there's not someone that comes to mind, is there someone you were like not going to pan out, then turned out to be a stud? What do we got?
Okay. Man, his name was I think it was Brandon Wood. He was a first rounder with Anaheim, actually. You know the name? Look him up real quick. I think it's Brandon Wood.
Pitcher, first baseman?
No. Shortstop.
Okay. I got him.
Yeah, and he was with me in AAA with the Orioles. We signed him for a minute, I believe. Or maybe it was with the Cubs, but no, he was supposed to be like, like Mike Trout, sort of good.
Oh, dude, he was pre-2006 number 3 prospect in baseball, number 5 prospect in baseball.
And not to hate on him, but he was supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be like Trout.
Boo.
And he had flashes, but I don't know if there were injuries or just I don't know, just couldn't figure it out. I mean, baseball's hard. Most guys don't figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. And then it was a guy who wasn't supposed to be good that was good.
Yeah. Was there the guy who like this, how the fuck's this guy in Double-A?
Fuck.
See, not a lot of those guys exist though, right? It's not like.
Not a ton of them. No.
Usually it's just like a bad body that people profile. It's like, oh, this guy's super slow or he can't play a position or whatever. And then it turns out that like, oh, this guy fucking rakes, huh?
I'll think about that.
Okay. All right. There's only a couple left here. There's just 2. I guess this isn't really a question. It's just a statement. Somebody has your locker from your second no-hitter.
Like the nameplate?
No, like the actual fucking locker. Like the fucking locker.
The one in Cincinnati?
Yeah, like Cincinnati.
Fuck, let me get that. He
reached out and he was like, oh, do you guys want it for the office? I was like, let me talk to Jake. I would imagine this isn't something where like you just mail us a fucking locker. This guy's probably going to want to get lunch.
How do you even acquire that?
I don't know.
Talking about taking jerseys and authenticating them. Who was the guy who?
Hey, they'll sell fucking they'll sell everything.
Especially Cincinnati. No offense, Cincinnati. It's just funny that like, yeah, we fucking sell our guest lockers. They have a good game.
I wouldn't mind having that.
Okay, here's the last one. I alluded to this to on our first show. This is just a great. I wanted you to tell the story to our audience as they get to know. This is just a great story. The tweet, the 2015 tweet, whatever helps keeps your hope alive. Just know it doesn't matter. This is a tweet that you sent out in response to somebody talking shit about the Pirates in game 2015, the wild card game 163. You send this tweet out. It went super viral at a time stuff like this like really wasn't a thing. And do you regret Do you regret the tweet?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was fun.
I know.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a situation where I was in the middle of a pretty hellacious run, feeling great about myself and my team, and I like to talk a lot of shit in this Pirates parody account. Sent out whatever they said. I'd like the sea of black and gold is going to be on you. And like, said what I said. Get on the plane. A couple teammates. Everybody's nervous. Right? Dexter was nervous, and I told him, hey, just give me one run. I got you. We'll win the game. And then we get out there for the game. I see my wife's face on huge poster boards, and then they're like cutouts of the tweet posted up, and I'm like, these guys are fucking unbelievable. Like that shit's gonna do anything to me, right? Just because they got the tweet on a poster board. So, we get a run or 2 runs in the first inning. Schwarber hits a home run in the third, and the rest is history, man. But yeah, that tweet was very good.
That's a Cubs team. I remember when you guys clinched playoffs, you guys lost or something, but you guys still clinched the wild card. And like Tommy Ricketts threw a fucking party on Clark Street at like Rebel. I think it's Country Club now. You guys like rented. I remember like going to this party and like it was like crazy. The Cubs were going to the playoffs and like, oh, what's the party like? Like, no, they just picked out a bar across the street from Wrigley, rented it out, blacked out all the walls and everything.
We'd hang out over there a lot too. I don't know if some people knew that, but we'd hang out there, once or twice a homestand at least. Yeah.
What else is going on in life, man? We're gonna see each other in a couple of days. I just want to make sure everything's good. You got some workouts coming up. Oh, last one. What's your cheat meal? Someone didn't say this. Your cheat meal?
I've kind of gone back and forth on cheat meals. I don't have many cheat meals because like the food that I do eat, I genuinely love eating.
Like flaxseed?
I eat it. No, not really, because you don't digest flaxseed. If you look in your shit, like when you take a shit, you eat a lot of flaxseed, it's still there. You don't break it down. So you don't really need flaxseed. I eat a ton of eggs. I love eggs. Like bison, elk.
These are his cheat meals?
No, these are foods I eat.
Okay.
Hey, these are foods I eat.
Dude,
cheat meal. Look, hey, I mean, everybody likes pizza. I don't eat a lot of pizza. I like Italian food, like chicken parmesan or like veal parmesan. I like spaghetti and meatballs. I like a mushroom pasta with like the white like cream sauce.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's like one if you could go back like you were a kid that you would eat?
Well, the same shit I'd eat now if I cheat. I'll tell you what I would do when I would do like a big cheat. I do like a cheat week because my diet is so dialed in. The first week or 2 of the off season when I get home, I'd wake up and for no reason I'd just eat like 2 pints of ice cream, Ben and Jerry's always. Maybe some donuts, like have a cup of coffee, maybe have a couple tequilas like for lunch, eat like a whole pizza, a couple burgers. Like I would do it for 4 or 5 days straight. And then I'd get it out of my system. I'd want to like just, I'd want to puke after that. So I just kind of purge on all the food that I loved. And then I'd kind of get back on the get right diet. But then I realized that like might be developing some sort of weird like eating condition. So I should probably not do this anymore. It's kind of borderline getting weird. So now I just every once in a while I'll let myself go. But I feel like shit after I do it. So that's why I tend to, not do it very often. But yeah, red meat, fish. I eat a ton of rice. I love rice. I like sushi. Yeah, I don't really have cheat meals that much anymore. I don't do it.
I think anytime you make this decision, like this is when you're cheating, and it's when you're like, I'll have that chicken sandwich, and they're like grilled or fried, and you're like fried. Like when your brain instantly is like in the fried. If they're ever asking grilled or fried, and you're like fried. Like that's when you're in cheat mode. To me, pure cheat mode. And then it's more about like how heavy are we going on the apps? Like, are we really going to spread the table with the sampler platter and some wings and some fucking nachos and stuff?
Yeah.
Like that's full cheat mode. And then obviously with the beers, like when the beers are flowing, deep dish pizza I like in Chicago, Italian beef I like, but it's not like, oh, if I had like a death row meal or whatever, I would do this one or that thing. I think it's more of a general philosophy. And once I'm firing up the fried foods, it's fucking game over. And to your point, it could go on for like, it could be like a 2-week binge where it's just like, gotta just reset, just gotta get it out of me. So
you get into the rhythm and the routine of doing that. It just continues to happen. And I had a big one last night, and you'll learn when we start going out to these dinners. I'm a huge appetizer guy, absolutely huge. So we went to a place after we left Dallas. We actually drove to Fort Worth first because I wanted to go to this restaurant called B&B Butchers. Right. So we had brisket ravioli, we had calamari, we had 2 pounds of king crab, Palmer wanted a lobster tail, so I got our lobster tail. And then I had beef and barley soup. I also had some salad. I had half of a loaf of bread. I had a veal chop. And then we ordered dessert. We had butter cake, cheesecake, bread pudding, and carrot cake. And I had a few bites of each. So that, you know what, I still do it every now and again, but I haven't eaten yet today. I probably won't eat today. I'll probably eat tomorrow.
I haven't either, but I do have a chicken cutlet sandwich being delivered right now, so I'm looking forward to that.
So you're in the middle of a fast. You're about to break the fast.
Yeah, an unintentional fast.
Sure.
I'm going out for some New York pizza tonight. I have a place picked out. John's on Bleecker Street. I'm going down there, have a couple beers. I have some pizza.
I hear
One
that
in
place
Rome.
is great.
It is phenomenal. So vibes are high, man. I like that we had on some food talk. I think it's funny that you don't actually have a cheat meal, though. It makes sense.
I do. I told you I did yesterday.
Yeah.
I did
Yes.
yesterday. But
yes.
it's if I'm out and I can't make my own food, then I'll let it go. I'll let it go. But then like I just told you, I probably won't eat the next day. I'll just reset.
It looks good. Don't stop. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. We got to tell everybody too. Hey, you said it earlier, subscribe and unsubscribe and then resubscribe, or unsubscribe, resubscribe. But just like hit the button on the YouTubes and on the Spotify's and all the relevant platforms. Am I missing anyone?
Yeah, leave a review.
Okay.
Like, subscribe, all that. Yeah.
Joe West is coming on. Your buddy Joe West is coming on.
I look forward to talking to him. I haven't talked to him in a while. A lot of people talk shit about Joe, but he's a good dude.
Cowboy.
He is cowboy. I don't know if he can ride a horse though. We got to ask him.
We'll get to the bottom of it next Thursday on Starting Nine. Go subscribe to our shit. Jake, always a pleasure, brother. We're going to talk soon.
Colin, Carl, love you guys. Good show.
Love you too, buddy. See ya.